Gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Duncan, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, good to see you again. You clearly care about children. Have you seen The Sound of Freedom?
That's that new movie that's been put out? No, I have not.
Yes, sir. I recommend that you see it. You know, globally, too many children disappear every year, never to be seen from again, sold into sex trafficking and slavery.
Congressman, if I could just mention, I was former Attorney General in my state of California. I investigated, I apprehended, I arrested, and I prosecuted.
And I appreciate that work. I knew of that. I know your heart. So the movie is phenomenal. I met with the HHS or the DHS guy in Columbia in 2014 with Ed Royce. The atrocities against unaccompanied children should come as no surprise, considering who this administration and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is hiring to care for them. Mr. Secretary, are you aware HHS recently awarded a $75 billion contract for a for-profit companies that have zero child care experience?
Congressman, if you can give me details, I can try to respond to your questions.
I'll tell you now.
I'm not familiar with a $75
Amentum, which
billion
specializes
contract.
in aviation, environmental solutions, and engineering, and J&J Worldwide, a private equity-owned company that got its start in custodial services and facility management. What qualifications does a custodial company have to provide medical and mental health care to children who have been through extraordinary trauma?
Congressman, what I can tell you is that anyone who seeks to contract with HHS to provide services to unaccompanied children has to go through a rigorous formal process that's been established for a long time.
But do they? I mean,
kind of
they're a
contract.
custodial company. What expertise do they have in vetting and assessing safe placement for children entrusted to your care?
Well, I can tell you, Congressman, that we do not contract with anyone who cannot provide the kinds of services. that
$75 billion is probably close to what we gave Ukraine. So would you hand your child over to one of these companies that has no experience in child care? I'm not going to ask you to answer that. HHS paid Rapid Development Incorporated, another for-profit with little to no experience in child care, $3.48 billion to care for unaccompanied minors since President Joe Biden took office. According to the company's website, Rapid Deployment specializes in wastewater treatment, electrical utilities, security operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Your agency hired this company to operate the Fort Bliss Emergency Influx Site, which has been widely reported as having deplorable conditions. They have also been whistleblower allegations of child abuse, a damning OIG report, and then even hired ServPro, the flood repair and mold remediation company, to be youth care workers. Mr. Secretary, do you think mold remediation specialists and utility workers should be caring for tens of thousands of children?
Congressman, all the entities, contractors that we work with have to show that they can actually do the work that's necessary to stand up facilities, to operate the facilities. And today I can tell you that we are offering more services to children than had ever been offered before, because we're able to now work with people who understand what they need to do.
A mold-free environment and great wastewater treatment sounds like what it is. I would ask the OIG to investigate these contracts, because $75 billion is a huge contract. It's not obvious to you that for-profit companies are bidding on these programs because they can be paid hundreds of millions of dollars, in some cases billions of dollars, for the work they are not qualified for, face no repercussions for doing a terrible job. Are you not concerned with the precedent your department is setting that you can harm children without consequence?
Congressman, as I said, we go through an established process for anyone who wishes to work with the federal government, and especially if they're going to work in an area that has migrant and or minor children. And so the work that we do is very challenging, and it's very important to do it right. And so the contractors that we employ, whether it's to stand up a facility or to actually operate it, go through a significant vetting process to be able to qualify.
I'm going to send a letter. I'm going to talk to the chairman to try to get OIG to investigate these contracts. I would ask you, Mr. Secretary, to look into that, and I'm asking you today, after you look into it, to get back with me in my office about the services these company provides, if there's any irregularities, any calls for alarm, because we both have heart for the children. I want to make sure they're taken care of. I'm also concerned about children released in the country, as the chairman mentioned earlier, without tying in that familiar relationship, because I'm worried about where these children end up. Even in this country, when we have sex trafficking, every major sporting event has prostitution. I'm sure children in sex slave trade here in this country. I want to make sure that children that are sent here by their parents from these triangle countries or Latin American countries that make their way north, tens of thousands of dollars paid by those parents to send them north, and those children aren't entering the sex or the slave trade. And I look forward to your response on that. And I yield back.
Gentlemen,